Hello, everyone. Sorry, I am texting right now, and I didn't notice that my stream had gone up finally. Uh, Give me a second. And sent. Okay. I was going to start the stream like 10 minutes earlier, but I got a phone call. So, phone call trumps the stream. I'm sorry, my priorities are different than most. So sorry. Hang on, I gotta open up my cigarette case because that thing's still busted and I still haven't found a replacement for it. Put 2 down for it now. Gotta mix my drink. And yeah. Today's gonna be a slow kind of day. I have an idea for a stream. And it's based off of the previous stream I did, which was where I was ranting and raving about my disillusionment with Dungeons and Dragons. And the idea was people send me the most vague of plots. Like anything off the top of your head. Like, what would be a good example? And I'll add a stipulation to it because now I'm thinking about it. Also, tell me what the party is made of. Maximum of 9 players. Say like so. Example: five party members. Rogue, 4 generic characters: fighter, wizard, cleric, thief, or rogue, and then 1 outlier. And we'll say it's a barbarian. So you put that down. Those are the 5 party members that you want to see what I can do with a 5 party play style. And then you go, the adventurers go into the woods ruled by elves. And that's it. Like the party wants to go into an elven nation that's woodlands, predominantly woodlands. So, and then I just off the fly I could probably make 6, 7 adventure hooks and an overarching campaign quest just from that. Like it's really not. I'm trying not to rant about it. I'm trying not to rant about it. Today is supposed to be an easy day. Today's supposed to be a day of relaxing and calm thoughts, but I know it's not because I got some things I want to fucking talk about, and they're all probably gonna make me rant and rave. But going back to it in a calm manner, I don't understand how hard it is to make quests and storylines. I don't really. Granted, what I did the other day, people will probably be like, "Oh, well, that's just because you've been playing D&D for so long." Or they'll throw out excuses. And it's like, "No, those plot lines are just the foundation of a plot." Granted, really great ideas. They are they are a really well like that. I am quite proud with the plot that I made up just by going a group of party members, like a group of players go to a ball. I'm quite proud of the plot hooks. I am, but then when you start writing it down, you have to be really good at improvising talking points and conversations and branching paths to said things, like what if the players ask about this, or what if the players ask about that? Because in role playing games, especially tabletop, they are not a Bethesda game or a Mass Effect game or any kind of NPC dialogue tree that you see in video games. Like, a lot of players are not going to like it if they go, Sir Barnum, what do you know of the Baroness? And he goes, the price of fish has gone down today. And it's like, you already told us this. What do you know of the Baroness? You've lived here your entire life. Huh, it's tough being a farmer. And it's like, no, that's not what happens in D&D. Like, they're not going to start getting those repeatables that you hear in, like, it when going around Whiterun, or going around the Citadel, or talking to any random NPC in a Final Fantasy game. Like, you're not just going to get the same blank text that they say all the time. The DM has to, it's organic. The DM has to bring stuff out. And this is another gripe I have. When the players find somebody who's like, has knowledge of this kind of shit, like, say hang on, say Sir Barnum is knowledgeable of what's going on with the Baroness. I'll bring that campaign hook back. So say Barnum's talking to the players, or he's yelling, and okay, that's a good idea. So the party's walking down the road and they're trying to find leads as to knowledge of how weird the Baroness has been. And we'll say he's yelling at his son while they're working on the farm, and like he just throws out an off comment being like, if you keep acting like that, the Baroness is going to take you away like she did your brother. Well, the party's like the part like if I was the DM, I'd roll secret rolls. I'd look at everyone's perception roll and be like, say the bard or the rogue is the only one that hears it. Like, if it was online, I'd type it in a DM and be like, hey, you hear this, because I don't like announcing half of the shit that like that's one thing I don't like, is announcing things, because that's not organic to the game. Like, if I do a secret roll, and then if you're sitting around the table, or you're sitting on Skype or Discord or Roll20 or whatever program you're using, and the DM, hang on, the DM immediately just goes, Eric, you hear growling off in the distance. Now everybody's going to be like, well, why didn't I? Or, oh, Eric hears growling. I turn to look at Eric, and it's like, no, no, you don't. You don't hear it. You don't hear the growling. He was the only one that heard the growling, not you. So if I was playing online, I would send a message to Eric and be like, Eric, you heard like Sir Barnum, this farmer over here, scolding his son and saying that the Baroness would take him like she did his brother. And if it was in person, I I keep a full stack of index notes, and I have them all cut in quarters, and I would just write, you hear you hear Sir Barnum, and then I'd hand it over to him. I'd hand it over to Eric, so that Eric would know and nobody else knew. And that's it. And then the party is going to, like, Eric's going to be like, what do you like? if you're playing with role players or you're playing with people that actually want to play the game as if it was organic, or like they're trying to portray their characters, i.e., role playing, Eric would be like, oh, I walk over to the fence where Barnum and his son are, and I go, what's this about the Baroness taking one of your kids away? And like have a conversation with him. Now they'd start talking to him and asking him questions like, how long you've lived here, uh, when's the last time you saw your son, how do you know the Baroness took him? Simple, reasonable questions. You're gonna need to roll a few fucking charisma skills though, and probably some wisdom because sense motive is wisdom. But the players are gonna have to roll to succeed in these conversations, and like if the and most DMs that I've played with, they just kind of bluntly put it like they don't even do rolls unless it's like, oh, I try to intimidate him, or oh, I try to bluff him. Like those are the only two I've ever seen used when talking to someone. I've never seen someone roll a sense motive check. I've never seen anybody like try to bribe someone. None of that. I've never seen that. And then when somebody asks the question, the DM's like, yeah, like they don't even use like the character. They don't talk as the character. They just go, yeah, he just says that like his son disappeared a month ago, and he's been living here for 20 years. Like the only time I think that would be like you can like as the DM say that kind of stuff is if you're taught like if the person that they are talking to speaks a totally different language, and only one, like say Eric knows Dwarvish, he can speak Dwarvish or Dwarven, and they're talking to a Dwarven farmer, and all he knows is Dwarven. Like then I would say something like, yeah, so that way I don't have to just like write a note explain like giving the answer and then Eric has to translate it unless the party wants to do that because again, it's not the players versus the DM. If the players don't want to deal with like me giving the answers to Eric and then Eric having to recite what I could have just said, then I'll be like, okay, he tells Eric that he's been living here for 20 years, something like that. Granted, I'd be giving a little bit more detail because, like, when you talk to somebody, especially if it's a farmer, they're not just going to go 20 years. No, like most people don't talk like that. The vast majority of people like to give an explanation to things. Like if somebody asks me how long did you live in town? I'd be like, "Oh, well, I moved there when I was 5 and I've been living there since I was 23 and it was just recently that I had to move out a couple of years back." Like that's all like I just told you I've been living there for like 18 years, but I didn't say, "Yeah, I lived there 18 years." No, I told you that I moved there when I was 5 and I left town when I was 23, which was a couple of years back. So already you know that I'm older than 23. I've been there like I didn't always live there. I wasn't born there because I moved there when I was 5, which raises more questions as to why did I move there when I was 5? Like there's a lot more information that can go towards that, and so like Sir Barnum could be like, oh well, I've moved down here from the northern lands to live here with my family to keep us safe, and oh that must have been, and then like you can put down like emphasis like he's trying to remember how long he's been there, and so like like they just go 20 years. He says he's been here for 20 years, or it's been like a month or so since his son disappeared. Like they're not even even throwaway NPCs like that should have character so that the players are invested. It's why I dislike a lot of Bethesda games and a lot of games with NPC dialogue for the most part, because the characters you talk to barely the only people I talk to half the time in any game are quest related characters. Like you can't just walk around and just have normal conversations with people. You can't in most games. Like name me how many times have you if we'll go with New Vegas because I've been playing New Vegas a little bit here and there. If you play New Vegas, do you talk to any other of the NPCs that aren't named and like tied to quests? Like how many backgrounds to the people in Novak do you know? Like there's Boone the sniper, his partner who's also a sniper for Novak, who worked for the cons, and you need to do a quest for him so that he'll give you information. There's the ranger who's I think it's his leg got fucked up or his arm got fucked up, and so he's a disenfranchised ranger who still talks to I think it's Outpost Charlie. You have the motel owner who sold Boone's wife off. Plot spoilers, by the way, for a fucking game that's like what 10 years old or something like that. But you who sold Boone's wife to the Legion, and that's really about it for interesting characters. Like you have the crazy guy that you have to talk to for one little quest, which is to kill a Nightkin because he's been killing Brahmin. And then you have the shopkeeper who can't sell his million fucking Godzilla, totally not Godzilla figurines, and then he also has like 500 nuclear rockets for the Repcon shop. Everybody else just is just bland, and I don't talk to them. Like you walk into Whiterun, how many people actually have an interesting backstory and people that you're invested in? Christ, even the first time you walk into Whiterun, you come up against an argument between God, it's been so long, I forgot her name. But the chick who runs the blacksmith shop with her husband, who I didn't even know she had a husband until I actually walked into the shop for once. Like she's having an argument with one dude. I can't even remember the dude's name. And the only thing interesting about her is that her father is the counselor slash steward for totally not Theoden. Keep walking around the area, and all you hear is people going, "Oh, you should go to Bellathor's shop," or "Oh, those Stormcloaks," and you'll hear that all the fucking time. And then you have that one dude who's like a stuck up asshole who talks about how you're a poor pleb commoner and that you'll never live in the Cloud District. And it's like, bitch, I'm the fucking Dragonborn. Like, who the fuck are you to talk down to me? I saved and defended Whiterun. And like, it doesn't even matter which one you're like, which faction you side with, because you have to fight and defend Whiterun. But it's like I defended Whiterun, and that's all he talks about. Is like, oh, you don't live in the Cloud District, and then just walks off. Like he doesn't even stop to tell you. He just keeps doing his idle walk animation around Whiterun, just constantly spewing out the same thing. It's just I just zone out. I just completely zone out everybody. Like I have to go to Solitude so that I can talk to the queen, like the queen jarl or queen regent. Okay, and I just beeline it. I just go right through town, bang a right, go to the Blue Palace, go up there, talk to her, talk to the NPC I need to, do the quest, come back, talk to her again, done. I don't talk to her steward. I don't talk like there's barely the only people you can, like I said, the only people you can act or interact with in those kind of games are the quest giving kind or the important NPCs. Everybody else will just give you a generic stock line. That's it. You can't go through a dialogue tree with them. And I get it. It's a video game. There's limitations to video games, but at the same time, it's like that's not a pen and paper role playing game. And I'm not just saying like D&D. You have Star Wars D20, you have the Star Wars D6 game, Star Trek, uh like any pen and paper game you can play. Like that's not how they never say like give your NPCs stock lines. Yeah, we all know that one person that looks down at everyone spouting the same shit over and over again. But it's like, ugh. And so, like, when your players are talking to an NPC, talk as that character, like talk as that character. Flesh. You don't even have to like write. This is another thing that gripes with me is people's excuse of, well, I'm just not that creative. Like I'm just I and like I don't want to like I just it's just why do I have to make like this random farmer have a big detail? No, you don't need a big detailed backstory for him. He's not an important NPC, but he's an NPC nonetheless. Every NPC should have some history to them. Like telling the party like that Barnum came down from the Northlands so that he could raise his family in peace and safety, and that he has to think how long ago that was. Already gives the players more background than just writing down a whole background. Okay, so the Northlands are dangerous. Otherwise, Barnum would have moved down here for safety and peace. They're probably in conflict. He's been here so long that he has to pause for a moment and think how long it's been. Like, there you go. You've already given 3, maybe 4 big clues to who Barnum is. Not to mention that, like, you can describe how big his land is. You could say that it's like a 14-acre plot of land. Well, he must be well off if he has a 14-acre plot of land. Or maybe he moved here before the town was even a thing. And so he just staked a claim out here in the wilderness. And just more and more people started to come by, or people came with him and they set up shop. And so like he's got stone walls, which is something colonials did here in the 1600s. It's probably one of the coolest things here about Mass in just New England and the original 13 colonies. There's a lot of stone walls everywhere. Just you can walk right into the middle of the woods and you'll come across derelict stone walls. And some people get spooked by them. I don't know why. It's like, where are these stone walls? No, the stone walls are growing. That's no. It, people like frontiersmen and colonialists, when they came here, they staked out a claim. Well, how are you going to show your property line? You build a stone wall. So they would gather up stones if they had to flatten the land so they could grow crops or to put down a foundation for their house. A lot of stones. The earth's crust is a rocky crust. Stone is rock. So they'd find all these stones, and if they couldn't find a lot of stones, they'd go to the next person over, their neighbors or something, or they'd go to a river, and they'd go and find rocks, people, and then they'd build up a stone wall going around their whole property line. So you could just mention like, oh yeah, you're walking down the road and you see stone wall, and then there's maybe a wooden fence in the front because he ran out of it, or he uses this like the wooden fence is just an aesthetic, and so he's got this 14-acre like property, and maybe one of the players will be suspicious that you mentioned that it's that big. So if the players ask, you can just be like, "Oh yes, when I came down from the northern lands, sir, I just it was just me, my family, and a few other travelers. And so we sat down here and thought that this area was prime fertile land to till. And then the town just started up and everybody started taking claims." And it's like, okay, well, he came here with a few people, they set up shop, they started making their building their houses and stuff, building crops, and so this was just the plot of land he chose. And like you could say like the river is in the back, and so like there's a river or creek in the back next to his line, and so he stopped right there at the water line or the shore to one side of the creek or river, and then like he just thought that that was a good enough size of land so that he could feed enough people. Like, there you go. And if the DM wants to, he could say and the players could still be suspicious. And if you want to throw out a red herring, say that you could throw in some like little notes being like, "Oh, well, the Baroness gave him some property," or like the Baroness is trying to take some of that land back because he's the largest farm owner, and there's something like you could throw suspicion or intrigue his way that just goes nowhere just to waste the player's time. You can do that. Like, again, it's not that difficult. The only difficult thing, as I said, is coming up with dialogue to keep the conversation going. Now, this goes to my other point, which is another gripe I have. When people are DMing and you've run out of ideas, you don't have to just be like, "Oh, well, they just walk off." Like, you don't have to do that. Like, God, this is such a fucking. It's such an annoying thing. It's frustrating me. But like, there's a few things. There's a few things I've dealt with when playing. When we've exhausted all options for asking questions, the DM will go, "He's got nothing else to say," or "Yeah, Barnum just walks off," or "Barnum just doesn't say anything to you." And it's like, why not just say that Barnum, why not just as Barnum state that if he come like if I remember anything else, sirs, I'll be sure to send my son down so that he can bring you back here. Or, "I'm sorry, sires, but this heat is getting to me and I need to finish tilling my crops. Winter is coming." Like, that's all you have to say. He's a person. He has a job to do. Like, he's taking time out of his very busy day as a farmer to talk to the party. Like, it's not a static setting, even though most DMs make it a static setting. Like, there's no weather, there's no seasons. It's just always sunny Europe land for the most part. God. just once I'd like to play in a game where, like, this is the bad thing where where I'm sitting here going, man, I really wish I could play in a game where there were seasons. Like, wow. Exactly, Dan. I don't need to get back. I need to get back to it. The crops don't plant themselves, my lord. Like, I'd feel that. I'd be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Barnum, for like keeping you like my like if I was playing a character in that campaign and the DM threw that at me, I'd be like, "Let me help you plant those crops." Like it's the least I could do for like taking away like an hour of your time discussing this. Plus without his son, the son that went missing, he's probably he's probably got a backlog on that. Like, Christ, mentioning that like the son he was talking to is like a 5 or 6 year old helping him farm, and then like maybe have him like Barnum not want to talk about his son because the pain's too bad, and then be like his 6 year old son comes over and goes, "My lords, he's 18," like or something like he just reached adulthood, my lords. Like, holy shit, like, whew. Like his eldest son who was helping him till the fields and stuff, and that's the thing, like like the whole plot could thicken. Like you could just be like, oh, you guys come across a lad of 18 or 19 years and he looks very similar to Barnum, and then you go up to him and go, are you the son of Barnum the farmer? And then like if the players roll high enough and they succeed, it's like, yes, how do you know who I am? And then you'd be like, oh well, your father was talking, like we overheard your father discussing like your disappearance. Like, what happened? And then you find out it's like his son didn't want to be a farmer his whole life, and so he just ran away from home because he just wanted to get away from it all. It was just too stressful and he couldn't deal with it. And then like the party can convince him like, it was pretty fucked up of you to do that to your father during like the beginning of the harvest, or like during the harvest itself. Like your father's 60 or something like that. You could throw out an age. Like he's got your 5 or 6 year old brother helping him. Like he needs your help. Like your family needs you. Like, trust us, we understand that you don't want to be a farmer all your life, but you can't just not like if you've never said that to your father, like just talk to him. Like he's worried sick about you. He thinks the Baroness took you because people have been like disappearing. Like, and there you go, even more depth for Barnum, and like his whole family gets depth just from that. Just for It's not even a quest. It's not even a quest that like the players are being given out. It's just the DM thought, hey, he wasn't taken by the Baroness. He just ran away, and his father thinks that because people aren't infallible. People are flawed. People are going to make assumptions. People are going to try and connect things. So these missing people from town, and then his son goes missing, aren't aren't connected. He just made that connection. So many things you can do. And I just did it in like 5 minutes. It is not that hard to flesh out a character. Exactly. Connecting the emotional dots. Well said, Dan. Very well said. But yeah, I'm just I'm tired of lazy DMs, and I just want one. Like I had one when we were playing in Kingmaker. He's probably the best DM that I've played with in a long time, and I miss that. I miss that kind of DMing where the DM, and that's another thing. the DM's very lenient, but he's not too lenient. And like the DM is like I want a DM that's lenient to an extent. Like he will reach across the table when it comes to something. Like if like me, I like everybody's like, I want to be a half orc ranger or a half orc fighter. And then one's like, I want to be a Tengu thief. And I want to be a human wizard, and I want to be a half elf oracle. And then I'm like, I want to I want to be a tabby cat that's a fighter. And the DM's like, wait, what? And I'm like, Puss in Boots, but he's the Dragonborn. And then he like the DM's like, well, how the fuck did? Here's the Dova kitty. And I just show him the picture, and he starts laughing. He's like, "That's fucking adorable and hilarious." Yes, let me draw up some plans and let me let me work around the rules and look up stuff. And so he came back to me. He's like, "Okay, you're going to be an awakened cat that's been morphosized. You're going to have to explain how that happened." And I'm like, "A hag did it." And he's like, "That works for me. But why would she do that?" And I'm like, she found like she has stray animals everywhere, and she's been like anthropomorphizing them into slaves to help her because they're the only because we're small diminutive creatures that won't really be that much of a threat to her. Like, what do you think like a naked cat is going to do to you? Claw you a bit? Like, she's a hag, she's got magic over us. Like, she's the one, like, she can turn us back into being feral animals, and then she could just throw us into the woods and let us starve to death. He's like, I love it. I'll let you, like, and then he wanted like a detailed backstory as to why did you do this? Why, like, how did you escape? Why did you take up being a fighter? It's just like, I fucking ran away because I was tired of picking roots and mushrooms and shit for this bitch, and I said, "Fuck this," and I fled. First chance I got, and I got caught. And then the second time, she kept me in the like locked me in the house all day, and she'd keep an eye on me. And one night she fell asleep, and I slipped over there, snuck over, slipped the keys off her hip, and fucking unlocked the door or the windowsill and hopped out the window, and I beelined it. And that was never turned back, never looked back, never want to see that bitch again. And I became a fighter because that's probably the only thing I could think of doing. Like, hit things with weapon. That's like, I'm a cat. Like, I'm not gonna spend years like no do you really think that like a prestigious arcane college is going to allow a like 2 foot tall tabby cat to walk into its door like halls and study magic? No. No. Like, that is not like, they'd probably want to dissect me more than like allow me to study. Like, fighting thing like killing things and hitting them with sharp pointy weapons is probably the easiest quickest thing I could pick up. Oh, this is a sword. I swing things. I swing it and hit things and they fall down dead. Okay. And it's just over the course of playing with the party that I've actually started to learn and understand things. And that's basically character development. Character development. Big key word right there. That's the term for of the day. Character development. Character development. Uh Okay. Other thing I wanted to talk about, because it's been lulzy. It really has. But I'm kind of finally getting fed up with it. People who, and Dan will know this because he's seen it on Skype. People who do not grasp the 40k universe, like, oh, who boy, where to begin? Uh, it's probably my most watched video thus far in recent years. But yeah, apparently people do not grasp the sheer devastating awe of 40k. And so they have been furiously debating against me on my YouTube video in the comments sections, trying to tell me all the things the flood can do and how ultra powerful the flood is and how like they can completely topple every faction in the 40k universe. And they're not reading the comments because I think it was a week ago I was debating and arguing with a guy, refuting each point he made, and he'd put out 2 essay long comments, and I'd put two essay long comments out against him, refuting all of his points. And then people keep coming in, and they're like vomiting out the same thing he said, but in a more poorly written context. And so I have to, and or they bring up something that I mention in the video that I plainly stated in the video, like, oh, the hive, like the the, the flood are soulless creatures, except for the forerunner that controls them all. And I'm like, I stated in the video, if the flood are psychic, they're fucked. And if the flood aren't psychic, but if they infect someone who is and they gain psychic abilities from that person, they're fucked. The chaos, they're incorruptible creatures. How? They just are. And it's like, no, like, chaos is going to take over no matter what. Like, and you don't know. I think I've written it 3 times or 4 times now in the comments, like not the same time. Well, actually, quite a few times, more than 4 times. I've had to, I've had to constantly fucking comment on it. But chaos is a corrupting force, spiritually, mentally, and physically. It's it's all three, folks. It's all three. So if you don't have if you are soulless, which mm, that's that's one defines soulless, because everything alive has a soul in the 40k universe. All exist. Like I don't think, I can't think of a species that is soulless. Like the Necrons are not soulless. They're mindless, but they still have their souls in the bodies that they inhabit. Like, and they're still corruptible in a sense to chaos. And I believe there's been a few cases of chaos Necrons. It comes down to willpower and uh, resistance on whether or not you get corrupted by chaos. Like the Tau have a very small imprint in the warp, and it's why they don't have psychers. Even though some people in the fandom, and there's some theories floating around that Uh, the ethereal cast of the Tau are the Psychers because they control everybody. And so some people posit the theory that, oh, it's the ethereals that are the Psychers and everybody else isn't. The orcs have an insane resistance to the corruption of chaos. The Eldar are an entirely like psychic dominant race. Same with the orcs, and they are created by the old ones. And then you have humans, and you have blanks, people who are a void in the warp and actually nullify warp powers in the materium, the in real space. All of these things, like the flood, are a sentient living species. They are not an infection per se. In the form, like, even bacteria are living, and bacteria can be infected by with a warp. Viruses, viruses can be infected by the warp. Like the flood are more akin to John Carpenter's The Thing. And that like the thing could be corrupted because it depends. It does depend because they never full outright state in John Carpenter's The Thing that it's psychic, but in the short story that it's based off of, and pretty much one on like fully adapts, it's a psychic creature, and it's connected psychic, it has a psychic link to all of the things that it has under its control. So if there's like 7 or 8 things in a group, they can all communicate telepathically because they are psychic to an extent. But that would mean that it's corruptible by the chaos. There's a chance of it could, if it was plopped into the 40K universe, it could use warp powers. Like, but it'd have to know about them first. It'd have to, like, and that's another thing that's annoying me about these people is they're thinking, they're meta thinking. They're not thinking outside, like they're not thinking inside the box, they're thinking outside the box. Like the guy I'm responding to is putting the flood in the 40K universe and telling me and people who are watching the video that the flood would dominate against the 40K universe if it was in the 40K universe. If they were put in the 40K universe, then they have to apply to the physics and rules and reality of 40K. Just like if you were to say you drop one like 40K space marine into the Halo universe, how well could he stand up against Master Chief? Well, depends. It really does depend. Do does If he's wearing an iron halo, does the conversion field still work? Like, and for those who don't know, a conversion field, and it, like, if you see an iron halo, like it, you should know what a halo looks like. It's basically a ring with spikes all on it to make it look like a sun or to show that somebody's holy. And certain space marines, usually captains and people who deserve the award, have it on their armor, either behind their head or on top of their jump pack. It produces a conversion field which will turn any kinetic weapon into light, harmless light. So if you fired a plasma gun at him while he has this field up, it'll hit the field and just turn into light. That's it. And then there's void shields, which are on Titans and tanks and artillery and spaceships. And when a missile hits one of those, it just hits the field and then goes into the warp, completely negating it. And you can overcharge these and you can short them out, but then they'll come right back up. All they have to do is flip the switch again. Like, does that apply and work in the Halo universe? Like, do the holy the holy sashes and scriptures on a 40k, like in the sigils and seals on a Space Marine's armor work? Does he still gain the blessing of the Emperor? If it's not, and it's just him in his power armor with whatever weapons he has, what's gonna happen? No. That's so. Sten asked me, would Chief's energy shield, which is pretty weak, be able to stand up to 40k weaponry? No. Case in point, and this is you can see it in the trailers. Master Chief, when he lands on in Africa, there's a wraith tank, and I believe it fires an artillery shell at him, a plasma round, and he has to use that shield grenade to defend himself. Um, Also, normal kinetic bullets, like normal bullets for the 25th century, can whittle down his shields. Uh, an overcharged energy pistol can knock out his shields. Uh, Too many infection form flood creatures can whittle down his shields. And I think because we're going off, because then this again, this is something that's kind of there's a problem with a lot of this stuff. Like a scorpion tank round can kill Chief. Like the shield is not that good. And I don't remember the caliber of a scorpion tank round, but I'm sure as shit a bolter like a bolter round would probably fit the bill. Matter of fact, I will look up a scorpion tanks round because the thing is, a bolter is a 70 millimeter. Uh, yeah. I want the Halo tank, not the British Scorpion recon vehicle or the M56 Scorpion. Okay, so it has 762 millimeter armor piercing rounds for its machine gun. But what is the main battle tank's main cannon? My God, people. Okay, we're ceramic titanium armoring. It can go 33 miles per hour in an atmosphere. And it has one M512 smoothbore high velocity cannon. But it doesn't tell me. Okay. For additional offensive power, some Scorpions will instead mount a 105 millimeter gun. And the normal cannon on it is a 90 millimeter tungsten armor piercing ballistic capped round or a 90 millimeter S1 canister shell. And it can fire 30 rounds per minute. Okay. So it's 20 millimeters bigger. So you have this seven, like, and now remember, this is a 90 millimeter round coming off of a tank. Space Marines have automatic weapons that fire 70 millimeter. And they have heavy bolters with a belt fed pack that is massive and it sits on their back. They have pistols that have like a 20 round magazine on them. Pistols that fire 70 millimeter rounds. Then you have the assault rifle variant, which is just a bolter rifle. Like, and these things fire at insane rates of fire. Like, and again, like I've seen people make videos where they're like, Master Chief would totally survive, and he'd live quite well in the 40K. And it's like, no, no, he wouldn't. Like, I don't even think he'd be good in this in the Imperial Guard. I don't see him being that good. God, I forgot the special forces. He'd probably fit in as a stormtrooper, possibly. I forget the name of like the elite, not space marine stormtroopers that the Imperial Guard have, but they use like hellfire weapons, which are cranked up to 11 las guns. Like, las guns are insane. Their magazines their magazines literally can be charged on an open fire. They're solar powered. Any source of energy will recharge this unlimited recharging pack. Like, I think it holds 30 shots, 30 to 50 shots per pack. So once you fire, and like it varies because you can increase the damage output and the strength of the beam on on the las gun itself. But oh hey, say you pop 50 shots off and you're sitting next to a campfire. All you have to do is sit it in the fire and let it sit there and recharge itself, and it will recharge from the heat instead of having to put it on a dock to to charge it. Like, you can literally let it sit out in the sunlight and it will recharge. And sure, it's not as efficient, but it will charge it. And each charge pack will start to low, like it's just like a normal battery. After so many amounts of charges, like it'll start having fewer and fewer charges to be fired, and then you just get another one. Like I think the average Imperial Guardsman gets like 3 to 4 charge packs, because why the fuck's he gonna need like 100 of these things? Like, again, most Imperial Guardsmen don't live long enough to even use one full charge pack. So it's like, when you're talking about a universe, you need to remember you're putting one person into another. Like, if you put if Spider-Man and Batman duke it out, there's no real worry. Like, there's no like, they're both from superpowered universes, and there's not really a difference between those two universes. It's just the way the characters are and the characters that dwell in them. Like, there is a Superman analog in Marvel, and there is an Iron Man analog in DC. And so when comic book characters are like, fans are like, well, who would win in a fight? Iron Man or Batman? Or Superman versus Captain America? Like, you can have that argument and not have to bring up stuff from that universe that they're fighting in. Like, that's fine. But then when you're going like, who would win in in a fight? Aragorn or like, no, Gandalf or Dumbledore? Now you're gonna have to bring up, well, which universe are they fighting in? Which universe? Because magic works completely different in both universes. Magic is plentiful and readily available to the wizarding world in Harry Potter. Magic is more of a very, it's low magic, and it's very subtle kinds of magic in the Lord of the Rings. So which universe are they fighting in? Depends. It varies greatly on the universe. Like, Freddy, Freddy Krueger or Pinhead? Hmm, that is a tough one. It's been a long time since I've watched any of the Nightmare on Elm Street and the Hellraiser series. But yeah, like Sten said, is it in a dream or is it in the real world? Because if it's in the real world, Pinhead would probably win. Because Pinhead's a kinky masochist, like a masochistic, like a sadomasochist. So Freddy with his clawed hand, he'd probably just be like, "More, daddy," and probably creep Freddy out. But if it's in a dream, Freddy's going to win in most senses, unless, like, because that's the thing, Pinhead, like, I can't remember the extent of Pinhead's powers because I know he's gone into people's dreams and affected them. And that's usually when they're trying to solve the Rubik's cube, the box, the puzzle box. But I'm not. Let's see, like that's like, and again, like, yeah, Dan, that it makes the discussion interesting when you start bringing up stuff like that. But it's like the the reason why my video is so definitively 40K would win is because the flood would have to follow 40K to the T. It's in that universe. Like, that's it, set in stone. The flood are there, and I gave them like what, three or four fucking scenarios on Imperial worlds, and I pointed out like how each one is going to play out. And the guy who made the video that I responded to didn't even talk all that much into detail about 40K, and he actually down talked 40K. Incredibly so. Like, he pointed out, like, oh, the Imperial Guard, who are just men with flashlights and flak vests, they wouldn't be able to hold up against the flood. And it's like, you do know that's not just what the Imperium has, right? Like, they have Space Marines too, and he mentioned Space Marines, but he doesn't mention how fucking insane Space Marines are, or how many. Like, there's 1,000 active chapters at all times. It has been it is the 41st millennium. There's been 10,000 years since the first legions were made, the first 20 legions. And a legion has, I think, 10,000. I think it's 10,000 Space Marines per legion. Like, there's 20 of those. So you have 200,000 like Space Marines in the Great Crusade tromping through the galaxy on top of billions of like Imperial Guardsmen. And now there's 1,000 chapters, and each chapter has 1,000. And that's not counting the Black Templars, which have like 5,000 to 6,000, like three. I think it's 3,000 to 6,000. They do not. And again, I'm gonna have to stipulate, like, there's 1,000 chapters, and each chapter has 1,000. If they follow the code, the Adeptus Astartes Codex. If they follow the Codex and they adhere to the Codex, then they'll have 1,000 Space Marines. Not all Space Marines follow the Codex. Black Templars vehemently despise the Codex. The Space Wolves don't adhere to that, and they're one of the founding chapters from the times of the God Emperor. They were one of his first like legions. They don't like it. The Imperial Fists are another founding chapter. They don't like it. So when you're talking about Space Marines and their chapter sizes, you need to stipulate, are we also counting non-adherent Codex Astartes, or are we talking just Codex adherent Astartes? Like, if we're following just the ones that follow the codex that are active right now, then you have 10,000 Space Marines. Active. Like, if a whole chapter gets wiped out or purged by the Inquisition, like, they're going to reactivate another chapter, or they're going to bring one up from reserves, or they'll just found a new one. Like, then there's the Imperial Knights, which are a group of worlds, feudal worlds that ride mechs, and they have all kinds of size mechs. You have Titans, which are monolithic, like mech units that can be fucking like hundreds of feet tall with guns that are so massive, like it's insane that they have vehicles that can carry that kind of armament. You have the Sisters of Battle, which use power armor and bolters like Space Marines. You have the entirety of the Inquisition. You have the blanks, the Sisters of Silence, which can nullify fucking warp abilities. You have the Adeptus Mechanicus and their armies and legions. There's then you have the subhumans, or the quote unquote mutants, like ratlings and ogrins and beastmen. Like, there's so many different things that the Imperium has, and that's just manpower, not talking like vehicles and artillery and weapons and ships and aircraft. Like, there's so many things that you like this guy did not mention. It was just like, oh yeah, just they're using little laser guns and they have flak vests on. And then you have the Space Marines that fire like big heavy machine guns. It's like, no, they don't fire big heavy machine guns. They're firing automatic grenade launchers with a 70 millimeter round. Like, they have plasma guns which vaporize, like Necrons have gauze rifles which are specifically designed to flay your skin off layer by layer. It's probably one of the most horrifying weapons in 40K. Like, they it's not that ineffective of a weapon. It's one of the most destructive weapons in like the lore. It's just because of how sadistic the Necrons are. They despise life, and so they can actively like. And again, this is why they're so feared by the Imperial Guardsmen. Imagine being in a trench and then watching one of your friends being like just layers of skin being vaporized off of him slowly, as a Terminator slowly walks up, and he just keeps firing round after round from this gauze rifle, and just more and more of his flesh with each hit just gets vaporized off, and he is conscious, screaming in pain, until he finally dies from the shock or from a well-placed shot to finally end him. And then you have the Necron flayers, which literally they literally flay the skin off of people and wear it just because. Like, 40K is insane. It is 11, like it is cranked to 11 incarnate. So when like this guy is talking about it and he's downplaying everything, like, yeah, I'm gonna get a little miffed, and I'm going to fucking point out like, you're wrong. And so like all these comments that keep flooding my fucking video, they all keep bringing up the same topics, the same points, and it's like, I've already stated how wrong that is. Like, you're wrong. I had, and like, even in my comments I've stated, like, I'm pointing out like the most generic based lore that like an average person skimming through 40K would know. And I'm going into more depth to explain to you, just by not even just Imperial Guard and Space Marines, this is how fucked the Flood are. I'm not bringing up I'm not bringing up even more of the crazy shit in this lore. Like, 40K has over 40 years of lore. 40 years. they are the de facto they are all like they are the one of they cemented what a space marine is, for God's sake. They have their own xenomorphs and Terminator units because they're like because they were taking ideas from pop culture from the 80s. Xenomorphs. Huh. That's pretty cool. Like let's have our own Terminator. Let's have our own Terminators. Predators. Let's have like Jesus Christ. You have and another here's something that somebody pointed out to me, and they were trying to argue that like the flood would just completely destroy people. Like you have people like uh oh god, I forgot his name. Yeah, Sly Marbo. You have people like Sly Marbo in 40K. And if you don't get the reference, he is Rambo. He is literally called the one man army. Let that sink in. He is called the one man army, and he's one of the most decorated members in Imperial history for the Militarum, the Astra Militarum. And his skills are so legendary that he could best most space marines and assassins. Like his survival skills are fucking like better than most space marines, and he can take on whole enemy forces and striking fear into them because of how badass his reputation is. If I remember correctly, he has dismembered like so many different creatures. Like he is hunted down lictors for sport from I think High Fleet Leviathan just for fun. One of the most dangerous species that the Tyranids have, which can literally turn invisible because of like their chameleon-like abilities. He hunted them for sport. He was sent there just to blunt their just to be a wall of opposition against Leviathan, like the High Fleet Leviathan. God, I'm trying to remember the name of one of the dudes, but like there's one guy from 40K who's an Imperial Guardsman who literally broke the neck off of like one of the strongest Tyrannid species with his biceps. He put it into a chokehold and snapped its neck with his biceps, with his in a chokehold, a one-armed chokehold. God, Dan, why are you bringing up Final Payback at a moment like this? You you want to know? I gotta go off topic about this. Do you want to know something horrifying, Dan? I had so you should all remember. Like, I'm sure not a lot of people listen to all these podcasts, but I found years ago while walking on the side of the road a box full of DVDs, and so I picked up the box and I brought it back to my house, and I found Final Payback, one of the shittiest movies I have ever seen, and it is so bad it's good in like the sense of like you can laugh at how shit and poor the production value is and the acting. And so I lost the case for it, but I put it in a CD case, like a clear one, and I've had it stored away, locked in one of my boxes of movies. And so I was trying to get DVDs because my father has a DVD player, And he's like, "Oh yeah, I want to watch some movies." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm going through it. Dan, I shit ye not, the DVD for Final Payback disappeared. Like the case is still in there. Like the case is exactly where I put it, but the DVD's gone, and I know nobody would watch that movie. Like if anybody watches that DVD, like I'm sitting right next to them because I'm the one who put it in there to show them. It's just fucking gone. It disappeared. Probably back to the ether, or it's gone to another box of like DVDs. Like it regenerates its fucking DVD case, and now it's sitting in another box, a la Jumanji. Like it's just one of those. It's a sentient demonic entity, and it's just it's sad and depressed that I'm not even like scared of it. I'm like, hey, look at this. Look at this eldritch abomination on mankind. And it's like, I can't. I must scar other people. And so it just disappeared and now it's reappeared in like Singapore where this poor little boy is going to be like, "Oh, final payback." And then go to his family and show it to him so it can melt their eyeballs out. End of an era. End of an era. I will miss ye. Final payback. But yeah, like I just don't grasp how people don't know like how insane 40K can get. Like Christ, one of my friends last year was talking about it. He was playing, I think he was playing Stellaris with his friend, and they were talking about uh death weapons, like weapons of mass destruction and shit like that. And I forget what the Protoss death weapon is in StarCraft is, but he even said that's a that's like baby's first death weapon in 40K. Like that thing wouldn't even be considered a death weapon. That's how piddly it is compared to the shit that 40K has. Like again, owing to the fact that 40K is cranked to 11 incarnate. Oh, we just fought for like there's literal wars because Josh was asking this oh fuck, I think Monday or Tuesday. He's like, "What's one of the most insane and stupid things you've ever read about 40K?" I'm like, "Probably the fact that there was a 10-year long crusade on a planet to get STCs, which are basically cards, like data chips that have lost technology still on them. And I believe it was a decade long crusade that the Adeptus Mechanicus went after, and they discovered a better, more efficient toaster on one of those STCs, and they thought that was a victory. Like we found a data chip that shows us a better, more efficient toaster to make toast. This decades long conflict was not in vain. Like just Jesus tap dancing Christ. It's a exactly, Sten. What a waste. But with 40K, it's not a waste because they have so many people to throw at the situation. Like, they just don't like, that shows you how callous 40K is. Like, and again, like, you've even brought up, like, this point when I was talking to you and showing you guys the comments, like, people don't grasp just the sheer, like, lack of empathy towards life. Like, "Hey, we found a toaster in one of these data chips." "That is good. Return it back to Mars." And it's like, not a single person in that expedition is going to be like, "Well, what about the millions of lives lost to get this, like, data chip that has a toaster in it?" Like, nobody's going to say that. They don't care. Like, they've completed their goal. Like, the Death Corps of Craig, my favorite Imperial Guard regiment, is all about dying because their world turned traitor. They tried to secede from the Imperium, and the loyalists and the rebels bombed each other into a nuclear wasteland. And so Craig is a radioactive mudball. And so the loyalists spent, like, I think a few centuries fighting tooth and nail in this radioactive wasteland, a la World War One. They dress like they're from World War One, and like, their speciality is wars of attrition and trench warfare. And so once they fucking took the planet back from their traitor brothers, they were tasked with probably one of the largest tithes for manpower from the Imperium, and they see it as an honor to die for the Emperor because that'll absolve them personally of the sins of the past. They will willingly die for the Emperor at any turn. If they have a chance to die for the Emperor, they will gladly take it. It's like, oh hey, this orc war boss and his war company is going to storm through and break this line. We will all die. We need a regiment that will hold the line to the last man. And if the Death Corps are Craig there, they will gladly fucking be those ones. They are willing to die for the Emperor that fervently. They have that much zeal. Like, and the Death Corps of Craig are just insane. Like, I remember I was on TG one time and somebody posited what would happen if, like, I think a battalion, or like I think it was 5,000 Death Corps of Craig soldiers from the Imperial Guard regiment are immediately plopped into Manhattan in this day and age right now. How long would they last? And so people were positing, like, well, what do they have? Do they just have regular laser weapons or autocannons or what? And so they had, like, a few heavy machine guns so they could have some machine gunners. And I think they had a few artillery pieces, very few artillery pieces, and that's it. And even if the United States, the whole of the US military bombed Manhattan into oblivion, the Death Corps of Craig would survive. And people were bringing up, like, the strategic attitude of the Death Corps. They would bunker down in the subways. Like, the Death Corps of Craig, if they have to entrench, which they always do have to entrench, they immediately start taking materials that they can find and building bunkers. So they would use all of the subways in Manhattan as trench work. And then someone's like, "Well, what about food supplies?" Death Corps of Craig will gladly fucking live off of, like, the rat problem. Like, they will eat rats and cockroaches. They will not give a fuck. Like, again, they are known for being in wars of attrition. That is one of their specialities. It would take years to try and kill them. Like, and people are like, well, why not just, well, like, if I was in the military, I'd use the option of like Zyklon B, or just some nerve agent, and just gas the whole subway network. It's like, yeah, but they do not take off their gas masks. Like, that they constantly wear those gas masks, and nobody has ever seen the face of a Death Corps of Craig member. Nobody knows how, like, when they eat, when they drink, or like anything like that. They don't sleep with they sleep with them on. Like, nobody knows what like a person from Craig looks like. And like, it's just, that's insane, but that's just the norm for them. That is just the norm for the Death Corps of Craig. Like, it's absolutely fucking insane, the shit that happens. Space Marines. Space Marines have the innate ability to eat their foes and get their memories. And I haven't brought that up to, like, in arguments, because I don't have to. Just the normal shit about them being able to eat, steal, and spit acidic venom should be more than apt to take on the Flood. Oh, I killed this combat form. Let me eat it. And they have, like, I believe it's two stomachs, and then they have a little fucking pocket that tests, like, literally digests and breaks down any poisons that are in it, so they don't get toxicity from it, or die from a poison that's just riddled in it. And now they have the memories of the Flood. Again, the Flood are fucked if, like, a bunch of Space Marines devour them and go, hey, here's all the information. And now the High Lords of Terra, the whole military, and now the Adeptus Mechanicus will now know all of their tech. And if they absolutely 100% need to use the Flood's technology, which is basically just Forerunner tech, now the Imperium will have Floor Runner tech, or Flood Runner tech. Like, again, I just don't grasp how people. It's a lost cause. It's literally a lost cause half the time, refuting it, because it's the same fucking dribble coming out. But whatever. Just whatever. That's what people want to talk about, and they want to try and, like, one up somebody that knows vastly more about that lore. Let's see. Oh, for Sten and Dan, because I don't know if Dan and Sten were, well, I know Sten wasn't here for this earlier, but I don't know if Dan was. I have posited a not a challenge, but something people can do. Just to show how easy it is to make campaign settings and plot lines. Uh, give me a number of players and what those player classes are, and then give me the vaguest thing possible, and I will probably be able to make like 5 or 6 plot hooks. So the example I gave was 5 players. 4 of them are generic: fighter, cleric, wizard, and rogue, and then a 5th one, so like a barbarian. And they go to an elven kingdom in the woods, like something like that. I could probably make plot, like, an easy campaign setting out of that. So if you guys just think of something and throw it at me, and I could probably make things work out pretty quickly. Oh, give me a second, because I have another thing that I've been wanting to talk about. I've had something I wanted to talk about, but I'm gonna fill up my drink and I'll be back. Also, I will answer your I will give you a plot point for that one, Sten. So I'll be right back. I'm not even gonna mute. Okay. Let me put my headset back on. All right. First thing. 4 party members. And we're not even doing D&D for this one. 4 party members, a space marine, a member from the Death Corps of Craig, a mutant, and a psyker. And their goal is the hunt for spice. Okay. So, I'm going to say so we got a Death Corps of Craig member. We have a mutant, a psyker, and a space marine. Now that's so this I've already got a few good ideas, but I'm gonna have to ask for 2 questions from you, Stan. One, what kind of mutant, and what chapter of Space Marine? Because I'm gonna have to see just how easily I could, because it's 40K. I have to fuck the party somehow, and I've already got two members of the party that I can use to fuck with people. But I want to see just how fucked and how pissed off I can get the players, because again, it's 40K. Also, I have to respond to somebody because they don't want to talk. uh, One of the chapters that doesn't follow the codex, and I don't know for mutant. Take your pick. Okay. So we'll go for mutant. What would be a good mutant? Because we could go for one of the we could go for one of the generics. So a ratling, which would basically be a halfling, or an ogren, which is basically an ogre, or a squat, which is a dwarf, or a beast man. Uh, we'll go ogren. We'll go for ogren, and then one of the chapters that doesn't adhere to the codex. Whew. See, that's a that's a bad one. Let's see. I'm gonna have to look up a list, and I'm gonna have to roll. because I don't want to. I don't want to cherry pick. And let me light my cig. Dice bag, please. Thank you. And I gotta get a D20. Oh, there's D20. I have to buy more dice. And I gotta find people to play that will allow me to roll dice. Let's see. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 on this list. We have 7 named chapters, and then we have the entire cursed founding. Whew. So let me get the cursed founding list out. This is probably going to take longer to do this. Probably going to take longer to figure out a good like just to randomly roll a Space Marine like chapter. Like it's going to take longer to do this than make up the plot because I can already think of things. I already have 2 or 3 things off the top of my head. So, cursed 21st founding. Also, fun fact, it's the second largest or one of the largest foundings since the second founding. So, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, scroll down. 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 there. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. So I'll roll a d20, and if it's anything higher than a 14, I'll re-roll. Oh, lovely. I roll a net 20 first time. Okay, so 12. Oh boy. Oh boy. The Lamenters. So the Lamenters, they're actually one of my favorite Space Marine chapters. They seem to have been cursed by a dark shadow of ill fortune that has long determined their fate. They are the unluckiest son of a bitches ever. So we have a Lamenter, a soldier from the Death Corps of Craig, an Ogren, and a Psyker. And they're hunting for spice. And I'll say it's Obscura, the drug. Basically it's a highly addictive substance that's prohibited and incredibly illegal in the Imperium, and it can be known to be smoked and ingested directly into the bloodstream. So, first thing, and I gotta put this die away. So the first thing is, the Lamenter is already going to be because it's a Lamenter. He's already going to be cursed with something. The Psyker is already going to be weak to corruption of the warp. The Death Corps of Craig member, he's obviously willing to die for the Emperor. And Ogrins are not smart at all. They have like the mind of a 5-year-old. And they are fiercely loyal for the Emperor. So, I would say they would have to go to a hive world. and they're being ordered by the Inquisition to disguise themselves as rogue traders. And the Lamenters currently are on a century-long penitence crusade. And this one Lamenter has proven himself worthy of possibly gaining uh, such penitence by joining this band of just random members of the Astra Militarum and going on this covert mission to root out this illegal operation on, we'll say, Necromunda, because Necromunda is basically Gotham on crack. So they've got to go to Necromunda to break up the High Lords. The governor of Necromunda is been discovered, or there's whispers of traitorous heresy, in which he is administrating and distributing throughout the sector Obscura. So that's already the first plot hook. That is their objective given by a Lord Inquisitor. Now, oh boy. I would, as this being 40k, the psyker is going to be hearing voices. And every so often, as they're doing whatever they're doing during this operation, searching through the levels of the hive world, every time that psyker uses a warp ability, I'm going to roll a secret roll to see if he starts feeling the taint of chaos. And during this, when they go down to talk to the governor himself, the governor is literally the most powerful being on this planet. He has the whole of the Planetary Defense Force in his pocket. He has webs upon webs of connections. So as soon as they confront him, they're not really going to find much. But that's not going to stop them from finding some seedier section of Necromunda that's going to oppose him, that's going to try and muscle in and get some of the cut. So probably the best way for them to fucking find something interesting, the Underhive. Because you got to think, we're talking the Imperium of Mankind, where just the slightest infraction, misfiling a paper could probably get you shot. Like, these people are planning the most intricate plans possible and covering them the best they can. Corruption is probably the most rampant thing in the 40k universe. So they touch down. They talk to they start investigating the governor and his diplomats and his entourage, and they're not really getting that much information. The High Lord Inquisitor has already told him, like, it's heresy. We have the information. We just need you to fucking go there and pin it on him. Well, the information you gave us is like a decade old. Like, we're going to need evidence outright right now in the present. So they'd have to probably go to the Underhive to get some seedier information. And if I was the DM, I'd give them this information. Like the Lord Inquisitor gave you essentially a PDF of Necromunda and all of all of the known inquisitorial information on the planet. And the Underhive of Necromunda is, again, Gotham on crack. So they go down there, and there's gangs up the ass. In fact, I believe Necromunda's main supply of Imperial Guardsmen are gang members. And so you'd probably find one or two of the gangs, and they'd start talking to them. And I'd throw out information depending on if they're going to just be blunt about it, because the lamenter is probably going to be the most revered and intimidating figure, because space marines are not like they're hardly ever seen by local populace. The psyker is not going to be trusted if he is downright, like, he has the appearance of that. The death, all like all four of them are not going to be well received. Probably the psyker will have the least trouble if they're not like an overtly like, I have a third eye, or I have all this kind of shit hanging off of me. So the psyker's probably going to have to be the face of the party. So we'll say the psyker's the face of the party, doesn't look overtly like a psyker. So, God, what would be a good name for one of these gangs? Hmm. We'll say we'll go with something generic. The Apollo Wings. So you have the Apollo Wings and the Apollo Wings and the cheap axes. Really generic. The Vadrine Flayers. Ooh. So all right. So we have the Apollo Wings and the Vadrine Flayers, and the party comes across a street gang fight. Like, it's just an open shootout. And so the party comes in. They could probably they have there's multiple options they have right then and there. They can break up the fight peacefully, or as peacefully as you can in 40K. They can uh they can just gun down the majority of them and then just interrogate them, or they can just slaughter the whole lot. Either way, they're going to gain the attention of both rival gangs. And so if they do either way, we'll go with the first two. They maim a few. They maim a few of the gangs. So we'll go with three branches now. They kill the three. They kill a few of the gang members, and they stop the fighting. They're now going to start interrogating the rest, and they can do it right there in the street. They can drag them to a location off the beaten path, like an alleyway or something, and they can interrogate them. If they gun down everybody, they can go about their business, and at a later point, I would throw in one or two gang members, or a whole group of the gang themselves coming after them, and having another fight. And by that point, I would probably have them mention something about how they're working with the opposition. And so that would put the party into another situation where they can either tell them they're not, or just gun them down. And then they'd also have the chance of killing them all and interrogating one, or just killing them all. And then the other one is, again, the other option was killing the majority of them and keeping a few for questioning. And so, again, they'd have to take them away and interrogate them at a disclosed location. So the party would probably start asking him, like, what the fuck is, like, why were you doing that? Like, why were you having an open shootout? And so whichever group they'd have, I would be like, oh man, they're trying to push in on our territory, our turf, man, trying to take our all of our obscura we're making. That's why. Like like I don't know what you think you're gonna be able to do. Like, the governor has all the sway here. Like, Just put a bolt around my head. I don't care. You're not gonna be able to stop me. Like, and then if the Lamenter comes walking in and they realize he's a fucking space marine, they're probably gonna start begging for their lives. And so now the lament, and again, I'd have to figure out the rules for a Lamenter because again, they are cursed. Whew. Good God, are they cursed? So you got the Lamenter putting down the muscle and being bad cop or really bad cop, and then you have the Psyker who can interrogate them and just probe their minds. But if the player who's using the Psyker went like, yeah, I'm gonna use the powers of the warp to enter this lowly gang member's mind and pry the information out, I'd be like, all right, do it, roll. And oh boy, chances are he's probably gonna get corrupted. And so I'd start having like the voices are gonna start talking to him more and more. Like the more he's using his warp abilities, there's a higher chance of them backfiring and killing an innocent or one of the party members or hurting himself, or he's gonna just the taint of chaos is gonna start coming towards him. And so I'd be like, as you're reaching into the mind of this gang member, you start hearing a malevolent voice. But as the malevolence starts to recede and it becomes more of a soothing voice, and it starts telling you all the information you need. Now the psyker's not going to think like, oh, it's chaos. It's totally the chaotic taint of the warp talk. No, he's probably going to think that it's the mind he's going through. Like, and I'd totally fucking sneak it in. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, it's chaos. No, I'd be like, you keep hearing like just basic slurs and insults being cast at you as you go through the surface thoughts. Like, so the psyker's gonna think, oh, it's just this fucking gang member being like, fucking psyker, fucking like this subhuman piece of shit. It's trying to get through my mind. Fuck you. And then it's just gonna go into the soothing, like deeper thoughts. So he's gonna be like, oh well, it's just him. It's like no, 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 no. That's the evil taint of Zinch or Slanesh. Just probably Zinch, because Zinch is all about those schemes. And now we have the possibility of a chaos corrupted psyker in the party. Oh boy. So he gets the information he needs from the psyker. Well, the psyker gets the information from this gang member. And they find out that there are 5 massive plants, like old ass warehouses that have been derelict for decades, possibly centuries, down here in the hive mind, or the not the hive mind, the hive city. And they've been collecting oh god, I forgot the name of the slime creature, but it's a type of xeno in Necromunda. It's like the brain slugs or the brain slimes from Futurama. They love devouring brains. And so in Necromunda, it's a type of narcotic drug where they take the slime and put it on their head, and you get a narcotic high off of it. And all you have to do is when you're done with the high, you just pull this fucking thing off your head, or you just pop a pill and it will kill the brain slime before it takes over your mind. And there's some junkies that just don't care. Like they get so high off of it that they can't do that. And so they die. And so so the psyker finds out the information that they're taking these slimes and they're breaking them. They're basically dissecting and dissolving them and using that narcotic ability they have and putting it into their version of Obscura. So they're making like this super drug and they're selling it to the governor at a price, a pretty good price. And in return, he's giving them weapons from the PDF so that they can muscle out more of these gangs and basically become his own personal army in the underhive. And that will allow them to take over more of these locations and more of these areas in the underhive so they can continue to produce even more, because the supply is starting to reach such a fevered peak on Necromunda itself, but they're also getting deals off world. And all the governor cares about is continuing to rule over the hive world, as well as making a massive profit. And there's some other player that the gang leader had talked about during one of his conversations with the governor, but he hasn't really mentioned a whole lot to the gang members. So the players now have the basic information they have to break up this drug drug ring. They have locations for the warehouses, the production facilities. They know what's being put into it. They know the sheer dangerous fucking addictive abilities of said super drug. And now they know that the governor is supplying gangers with Imperial military equipment on top of having a cohort or another party being part of this whole operation. So that's what's happening plot wise. The other thing that's happening plot wise is that the Psyker is probably being slowly tainted by chaos, because now there's this deep fucking scheme going on that's been going on for decades. And as you know, Zinch is the god of lies and secrets and schemes. And so I'm gonna start and I tell the Psyker, I'm like, out of character, you're starting to feel the taint of chaos. Like, you yourself don't personally know currently, but you're attracting a few warp entities around you. Now, once that's done, I'd have the party do whatever they wanted. They could bust in. They'd probably, like, the most logical thing is bust in, break up the operation, and you're gonna have the evidence for the drug being made right then and there. Done. Pure and simple. They don't even need to break up the 5 warehouses. All they need is that one. And probably capture a few other people. They can also go after the gang leader for the fucking the Axe Wings or the fucking Vagrine Flayers. Doesn't matter really. So they go in. We'll say they go in, bust up the warehouse, and the gang leader's there. Maybe I'd probably throw out maybe 1 or 2 hints of his whereabouts. Now, it'd probably be a tough fight, especially for 4 party members against the gang leader and his heavily armed gang members. But should they succeed, and I'm sure the Psyker is going to have to use a lot of psychic abilities during that fight. At that point, we'll say that the Psyker uses their psychic abilities and they are able to defeat the gang. They're able to break up the operation and they're able to capture the gang member. Hoo boy. I would have that voice, because they're probably going to be like, Psyker, use your psychic abilities to read the gang leader's mind. We need to know who this third party member is. And so I'd have him roll And if he succeeded, whew, I'd be like, oh well, you once again you reach into the mind of the gang leader, and you start hearing that melodic voice once more, and you start seeing the scope and scale of this operation, and you start to realize that it's not as bad as you thought it was. That the hypocrisy of the Imperium is holding down and holding back the common man, the common working class of the Imperium. You start to see the lies. You start to see the cause for these gang members that living in this harsh, dark reality. Like, these narcotics are the only escape to ease the woes of such a life. Basically, yeah, it's not bad being a drug dealer and breaking the law. Like, it's a really shit society. You should totally not want to break it up. Like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with doing all this? Like, so what if people are dying by the thousands taking this incredibly addictive narcotic? It's not bad. And so after he reaches into his mind and he's kind of starting to agree with him, I'd be like, the voice inside your head tells you not to tell anybody. They don't need to know. Only you should know. You're the smartest of the four. I mean, look at that Ogren. He doesn't know anything. And that Space Marine, a child of the Emperor, the man whose hypocrisy caused all of this. He doesn't need to know. Better yet, you should you should persuade him to side with you. You should he he'd more than easily be able to take out the other two if they opposed you. Just totally, because that poor Lamenter, he doesn't know anything, but he doesn't know any better. And that's exactly what happened to the Lamenters. They sided with with a chaos aligned traitor chapter because they were best buddies, and who would like they were naive. They didn't know any better. They saw a group of space marines killing other space marines in the traitorous fucking legions. We're like, save us, Lamenters. They're being corrupted by chaos. Like, look at them. They're killing us. And so the Lamenters are like, hang on, buddy. Hang on, bros. We got you. And then they totally found out, like, no, you sided with the chaos, like the Chaos Alliance Space Marines. So now the fucking psyker is getting like these rudimentary thoughts of hide your secret. Don't tell them everything. You shouldn't tell them who the third, and like I'd tell him who the third party member is, but I'd be like, don't tell them. Don't don't reveal the secret. And so now the psyker, like if the psyker had a good enough will save to resist that temptation and he told them, I'd roll with that. But if he fails his will save and he's like, that lead we got from the gang members was a ruse. He's talking about the other gang leader and how he's possibly being like this gang. We'll say, I don't know. We'll call him Dan the Impaler. Dan the Impaler is the gang member, like the head of the the X Wings, and he's working with the governor, and now he's suspicious of the fucking Vadrine Flayers because their leader is starting to make Obscura, and he thinks that the governor is working both sides. And so his paranoid delusions is what the gang members think is reality. But it's not. It's just a ruse. And it's like, "Oh, you son of a bitch. You're lying to the party now. You're joining chaos. You're not divulging all the information. Oh, psyker you." And the Ogren's not going to think it. Like, the Ogren's probably going to side with the psyker or the Space Marine over the Death Corps of Craig soldier, because both of them are divine beings to both the Imperial Guardsmen and the Ogren. The Space Marine is literally considered a child of the Emperor, and the Psyker uses the powers of the warp and is sanctioned by the God Emperor himself. So even if the Death Corps of Craig member gets wise to this, he's not going to be able to convince the Ogren. Like, you have a soldier coming up to another soldier and being like, "Hey man, that psyker is acting pretty chaotic. Like, he's speaking some serious heresy, man." He's not going to convince a 5-year-old. That 5-year-old's going to he's going to look at that masked World War I looking dude and then look at the guy who's using the powers that the God Emperor gifted to him. And like, Ogrins are fucking fiercely devoted to the Emperor. Like, she's gonna be like, "I don't know. Like, you're sounding like heresy. Like, how could you say that to a child of the Emperor like that? Or someone divinely blessed by the Emperor like that? The Emperor is uncorruptible. Like, the Lamenter is not gonna fucking the the Lamenter would probably be the toughest one. Possibly. I'm not entirely sure. Because with the Lamenters, he might gain some suspicion about the Psyker. It is possible. But there's not much he can really do. Like, his chapter is not really trusted anymore because of what they've done. They sided with a traitor legion or a traitor chapter. Probably not going to have that much clout. And so it's now down to what the psyker is going to tell them. That actually, like, it's no longer me. I'm not the one leading the party onto a storyline. It's what the psyker wants to do. Because now if he delves into chaos and he's like, "Well, I'm corrupted, might as well fuck over the rest of the party with chaos. That's my prerogative." Like, he could lead him on a wild goose chase. Total fucking red herrings. Like what me as the DM would want is kill the Lamenter and keep the status quo going. And so I would be using the Psyker to the fullest extent. Gain the trust of the son of the Emperor. That Lamenter would be a very good bargaining chip. Like, just keep fucking flooding that Lamenter's mind with, like, "You're my best buddy. You guys aren't all that bad. Don't worry. We'll like, that's probably the deepest knife possible to implant in that dude's chest is, "Don't worry. We'll get you your penitence back. Your chapter brothers would be most pleased when they hear of your accomplishments here on Necromunda." Like, totally. Like, if I was that psyker, I'd be hanging that over his goddamn head. Like, "Don't worry, man. Like, we're gonna break up this drug ring. We're gonna take that governor down, and you'll be redeemed in the eyes of the Emperor." And that's totally gonna fucking make it turn a blind eye to your corrupting influence. Just totally fucking betray the party. And so whatever the psyker and the party choose to do next with the information they have, like, oh boy. Like, if they think that's enough information from the warehouse and the gang member, let's just bust down the operation now and fight our way to the fucking governor. Oh, I'd have that voice, that chaos voice, just talking to the psyker the whole time they're fighting. When you get to the governor's office, betray them. The third party will help you accomplish your goals. You need the governor alive. And just be like, all right, voice inside my head. Totally fuck over the party. Oh my god, what a reveal that would be. You got the Death Corps of Craig soldier and the Ogren fighting, and then the Lamenter. And like the third party is like a greater demon of Zinch. Or just a chaotic, a warp entity that's just reveling in fucking over everything just for the sake of fucking over everything. And like the whole goal is to simply just fucking like that'd probably that's probably the goal. That'd actually be a better goal. Fucking over the Lamenters. Like staining the Lamenters even more. Because like Death Corps of Craig and the Ogre and the Psyker are probably the more expendable. Like they're nobodies in the grand scheme of things. But you have a Lamenter, like a Space Marine chapter that's going on 100-year penitence crusade to clear their name, and he sides with Chaos willingly. Like they're going up against the governor. And then you have this psyker, and he knows all of this. And like the Inquisition has information that's a decade old or however many years old. They think the governor may be in on it, but they don't know. That's why they're sending the party in. That psyker can help cover it up. Be like, yeah, we were searching around, and the Lamenter, like we just found a bunch of gang members making drugs, so we killed them. We cleansed the Underhive of this drug that we're finding. But they had stolen, and he could just, with the work of the governor, just be like, yeah, they were stealing cargo ships. Like the governor didn't even know about it. And the governor has now found out about it, and he has sent the Arbites, which are basically like police. Like he sent them there, and they've killed all the dock workers once they found out which cargo ships were being used, and they destroyed the cargo ships in flight while transporting these drugs. But once we broke it up, like the Lamenter said he had found some more information, and he's the son of the Emperor, and he led us up here, and he started slaughtering people, and he tried murdering the governor in cold blood. Like, he tried killing a leader of a hive world. And then he started speaking about chaos and how he was corrupted. And you have a psyker, a literal psyker who can warp reality. All they have to do is fudge the Voxcast, the audio recordings and the feed, like the camera feeds in the governor's office, to show that it wasn't the psyker who's chaotic and tainted by chaos, but it's the Space Marine in the party who is corrupt. And that fits right into the Lamenter's bad luck fucking flaw. Like, God, I would feel so bad for that Lamenter character. He's just sitting there, he's like, your reign of terror ends now, governor. And he pulls out his bolter, And all of a sudden, like, the Psyker goes, "No, Lamenter, it's your demise." And the Lamenter's character can be like, "Wait, what?" And it's like, I fire a bolt of lightning towards the Lamenter's head. And it's like, oh god, no! The Lamenter is the good guy. The governor and the fucking Psyker are in cahoots. And even if he kills the Psyker, like, fuck. The Ogren could just turn on the fucking Deathcore of Craig member right then and there. Like, the Psyker could be like, he's turned to chaos. And so the Ogrens are going to start fighting the fucking Space Marine. And then that third party could come in, which is just a demon. And the demon could come in, and the demon can take any shape and form it wants. It could possess the body of the Psyker. And now, yeah, you killed the Psyker, but now it's inhabited and possessed by a fucking demon of Zinch. Have fun. And that'd be the end. That'd be the end of that campaign. TPK. Total party kill. The Lamenter died. His battle brothers and chapter's name is tainted even more. His name is expunged from the Astartes archives. The Deathcore of Craig soldier and the Ogren are fucking annihilated, and the governor of Necromunda lives. If he lives. If he doesn't, it doesn't mean that it's going to fucking end the operation. Christ. It could be like I said, the whole point of this was just a 10-year long plot just to bring a member of the Lamenters here, or just anyone. Could have been anyone of high ranking from any Space Marine chapter. And it was just by the sake of just sheer luck or fate that it happened to be a Lamenter. So there you go. Let's see. Oh. Okay. I was going to talk about this before. I have been so you know how so you guys know that I love Arc the Lad. Like the first 3. I don't we don't talk about the others. We don't talk about the other Arc the Lad games. And I was talking about my disillusionment with D&D. I have been dying to see a conversion. I was looking through other D20 systems because I would love to play in an Arc the Lad game. I would absolutely love to play in an Arc the Lad game. But the problem is the magic system. That's the biggest problem in the whole of Arc the Lad, is the magic system. Like, the monsters are easy. You've got robots, you have generic fantasy monsters like minotaurs, which are basically just giants with horns. You have slimes, skeletons, giant insects. You have all manner of beasties. And then you have like the badass fucking bio weapons and shit that the Institute make, and then the Academy. But it's the magic that's probably the most confusing. And classes. Not all the classes, mind you. But like, it's Like that's probably the biggest crux of having a game set in the Arc the Lad world is the magic and the classes. Like you have Poco, who is he's an instrument player in the military, and he does like, granted, you can symbols and all kinds of weapons like that can be used in combat. That's neither here nor there. Poco is not supposed to be like a frontline fighter. He's supposed to be a support caster, but he also has offensive magic. But some of those abilities can be translated into D&D. Like Speed Ocarina is haste. Fucking Battle Drum is an attack buff. You've got Slow Base, which will slow down enemies. Then you have Lion's Drum, which is a like a straight line attack that's like 30 feet long, or like 20 spaces in Arc the Lad. You have oh god, I forgot the name. Fuck. I think it's Trumpet Horn or something like that. He fires uh magical fireballs out of a trumpet that cause darkness on enemies. Like, how do you translate that into a spell system for a D20 system? Uh Arc, then you have Shu, who's a ninja, and he has all kinds of weird attack special abilities. Gogan is probably the most D&D esque character out of them all. He has spells. He has generic spells. He uses canes and stabs and stuff to fight, and like that's pretty much the most generic character, like the easiest character to translate possibly. But then another problem with the system is leveled magic, because it's not really a thing in the first Arc the Lad, because again, Arc the Lad 1 was rushed. But in the second game and the third game, you can choose the strength of it, because each spell has 3 levels. And the larger the level, the more mana, like the more magic points it costs, and the stronger it is, and the wider the area. So then it's like, how would that work in a D&D esque, like in a pen and paper system? How would that work? So I'm like, man, I really wish there was somebody out there who was like, I want to make like a pen and paper Arc the Lad game. I'd be like, you do that, good sir, and I will gladly play that system. But nobody has, sadly. Christ, I think uh fuck. I don't even think anybody's made a Fable pen and paper game. I would love to play in a Fable pen and paper game. That would be amazing. I'd love it. Hmm. What does this idea say? Oh, lame. It's just a browser. Man, I was all excited too. What the hell? Is that a Jedi? It looks like a Jedi figurine. Looks like a Jedi figurine. Let me see a screenshot of this. That is weird. What does the character sheet look like? They have might, agility, wisdom. for base traits, and then bonus traits. Let's see. Might, melee combat, strength, stamina, athletics 1, agility, ranged combat, dex, reaction, stealth 4, wisdom, sense, knowledge, will, communication 2. 4 out of 4 life, 4 out of 4 power. Rogue, stealth, perception, mobility, locks, and traps +1. Performer, storytelling, flute +1. Unlucky, sometimes things just don't work out +0. Rojar, the unlucky thief. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. Weird. What a very weird thing. I'll have to look into that. It's called Fabletop. But yeah, I would love to play in Fable. Like I did a RP way back when on a forum for Fable. That was fun. But I'd really like again, I'd really like to play in something like that. God, that'd be so awesome. Also, that's a topic I want to bring up again. Fable 2 and 3 and 1. So the Fable trilogy. Um Fable 2 and Fable 3. Especially Fable 3. Drop the ball hardcore. And I've already stated this as much already. But in Fable 3 and okay, so give me a second. I gotta type something up. Do. And there we go. So in Fable 2, they did away with a lot of locations from Fable 1, which I disliked and I still dislike. I hate Brightwood. I hate Brightwood. Oakfield is Oakville essentially, but it's northwards instead of southwards. They don't have Darkwood anymore. They don't have Greatwood. And they added Westcliff, which I like, and Bloodstone, which I like. But they turned Oakville into Wraithmarsh. Because Reaver sacrificed all of Oakvale. Can't go to Knothold Glade unless you have the expansion for Fable 2, the DLC. And you can't go to the Northern Wastes. And I kind of feel like that sucks. It kind of sucks that you can't go to two well-defined locations, like 3 major locations from Fable 1. Greatwood, Darkwood, and Knothold Glade. Or just Knothold Island in general. Like, Knothold Island is where the original arena was, where Knothold Glade is, which is the main town on the island. It's where Balverines are most notable. You have fucking Greatwood had all kinds of weird shit in it. You had the old fisherman's hut. You had the weird fucking Archon stones to open up the seal so that you can get the Sword of Aeons. Orchard Farms was there. You had the Hobbs Cave. Darkwood had all the Chapel of Scorn. The Temple of Ava was in Knothold Island. Like, it's been 500 years. There's so much shit you could do with those locations. Nah, fuck it. We'll add a beach, a birch tree forest, and call it Brightwood, and it's fucking boring as shit. You have Farmer Giles, which is a nod to Tolkien, and then you have a tower that fucking Garth lives in. That's all I can remember from Fable 2. And then in Fable 3, God, I fucking hate Fable 3 so much because they dropped the ball on so many fucking things. Fable 3, not only did Fable 3 not do anything, but it doesn't even have Westcliff in it. It doesn't have Oakfield in it. It doesn't have Rookridge, which is another location from Fable 2, which is from Bowerstone. It's the area between Bowerstone and Oakfield, Rookridge. Doesn't even have that. I don't even remember Fable 3 having Brightwood itself. You can't go to Bloodstone. So you take away like 75% of the locations from Fable 2, which is set 50 years before Fable 3. I don't even think you can go to Bower Lake, which is the starting location in Fable 2. After you're an adult, like you start off in Bower Lake. It's where the Heroes Guild is. And no, wait, no, you do go to Bower Lake, but it's no longer Bower Lake. And the fucking Heroes Guild is hidden away in the background behind one of the mansions. And you can't go to it. You don't know how furious I was that was no longer at the center of the lake, even though it was practically the center of the lake. And then the structure to which all four of the heroes are supposed to stand on, like that was on the shore of the lake. Yeah, that's now in the woods somewhere, and now the lake is like this small, and that you can't even enter the guild anymore. Like the first two games had a fucking guild, and yeah, the guild, the Chamber of Fate, or the Chamber of Fate in Fable 2 was incredibly fucking decrepit and ruined, considering it's 5 centuries old, and the guild was attacked and burned to the ground by commoners. But like, you don't think that the hero who became king or queen, like, they didn't try and fucking keep that protected as a piece of Albion history, or try and renovate it? Like at the end of Fable 2, I thought, hey, heroes are coming back and heroes are needed. Yay. That means Fable 3 is going to have heroes everywhere. And like when they were talking about how you could become king or queen and take over like the reign, like the rule from your parents, I was thinking, oh my God. Like, are we going to have like our character be a hero at the Heroes Guild? Because like they were like when they first started talking about Fable 3 at I think E3 way back when, they were like, yeah, your character's a hero and he's the child of your character from Fable 2, and your save is gonna carry over. So if you were a good character, the people are gonna talk great about you, and you're a good ruler. But if you were evil, like you're a despot, and people fear you and all this. And I'm like, wait, are you going to be a hero at the Heroes Guild at the beginning of the game? Like, does your parents like hand you off to other heroes? Like, is Hammer and Garth going to be like because we know Reaver doesn't give a fuck, but like it's been 50 years. Hammer said that she was going to go off to study with monks, and Garth said he was going to go back to his homeland of Samarkand. But does that mean like that doesn't mean Garth can't come back? He's been living in Brightwood in a fucking tower for God knows how long. And Hammer said she's going there just to learn to basically like just live her life and recollect her thoughts. That doesn't mean Hammer and Garth can't come back and like the hero of Bowerstone be like, "Hey, I want to make a heroes guild. I'm king now or queen. Let's build a society, like a guild for the heroes again on the ground, like on the very foundation of the old heroes guild, and train heroes. Like the age of heroes is coming back." And so I thought like your character would start off training in the heroes guild as a tutorial. You do quests and shit, and like you can see your like your parents ruling and stuff like that. You're helping the people or destroying the people and shit like that. And like then they're like, "Oh well, you can be a hero. Like you'll become a ruler." And halfway through the game, you're gonna have to start deciding what it is, like how to rule Albion and the kingdom in large. And you're gonna be choosing this and that. And I'm like, holy shit, what happens if like the big vad finally pops up? Like there's been talks or rumors in the game that like there's this evil asshole plaguing society or something, and he flat out fucking murders your family. Like he kills your parents and takes over the kingdom. And so you fight him and you take over in the stead of your parents. And like the whole second half of the game is stopping the big bad. That's going to be awesome. And then it's like, no. Nope, heroes are still dead. Barely anybody remembers Hammer or Garth. Reaver's an asshole still. And he's more of a fucking mega corporation now, and he controls practically the majority of the industry of Albion. And your brother Logan took over the throne after your parents just died of old age. And you're a hero. But you're not technically the hero of all three skills or abilities because your character uses gauntlets to cast magic. Like, really? Fucking really? And then all the places are fucking boring. Like, the only location I like in Fable 3 is Brightwall. That's probably the only interesting place, and that's the second location you go to in the game after going from to Mist Peak, like the fucking dwellers village, and going through Mist Peak Valley. You then go to Brightwall, which has like the University of Albion, and it's a labyrinthian fucking void going down into the pits of the earth, filled with nothing but books and arcane tomes, and it's fucking infested with the dead. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, this is interesting. Like, this is a pretty idyllic village. I like it. It's quiet, very, very medieval looking, very fairy tale esque. And it's like, welcome to Victorian England here in Bowerstone. Look at these child labors. Oh, look at Reaver being a corrupt douchebag. Like, fucking Bowerstone Market's bland. Awful. Just awful. And then Morningwood is just swamp with a fort, and you have to do a mini game of using a cannon to bombard hollow men as they're coming through a fucking maze, like a tower defense game. Uh Christ. I'm trying to think of other locations other than those three. Because most of the game is just set in those three. Oh, and then Aurora, which is just a desert. Like, it should be interesting. It should be cool. It's not. It's just desert. Just desert. Like, the coolest fucking thing in Aurora are these bronze gates and you can, I forget what the description is, but it's like you can hear like the beating of war drums behind this gate, and it's hot to the touch, and they never do anything about it. They never do a fucking thing about it. Nothing. Nothing at all. And it's like, come on, man. Really? Not one fucking thing. Hang on. Let me look up the fucking Golden Doors. Is it Golden Doors, or I forget the name of it. I'm gonna look up the fucking Aurora on the Fable Wikipedia or the Fable Wiki and find out what's going on with that. Because when they were talking about DLC, I was like, oh my god, I can't wait. I can't wait for this DLC. It's gonna be awesome. It's probably gonna be based on those gates in Aurora. I can't. Please, this is probably gonna actually make me be invested in Fable. No, it's, you go to Victorian, like fucking, you go to a steampunk fucking Alcatraz. That's it. That's it. Uh, you go to Aurora. Also, that was probably the dumbest fucking thing to the DLC for Fable 2, where they're like, and this is your child, and they will determine the fate of Aurora, Albion and Aurora. I'm like, oh god. Who, like that, and that's something that I saw on a lot of people, a lot of forums back in the day, was who is Aurora? Not what is Aurora, who is Aurora?